Pastor who's been working with the youth of the city a few minutes ago. Right now we want to talk to a man who was a part of the police department here for 10 years. Rob Weinhold now has a career in crisis management, but for a long time you were with the police department here. Let's talk about, from your perspective, the response by police yesterday, which in many ways seemed like they were simply outmanned by the youth of this city.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of intelligence information gathered. They went down to the Mondawmin Mall area and very quickly were out-resourced from a manpower perspective. Had to call in additional resources, and I think that most people expected it to be a kind of an isolated neighborhood-based event, which quickly turned into many, many more people in many other parts of the city.
Steve mentioned that you were with the police department here. There's been a lot of talk about perhaps a disconnect between the force and the people that the force protects in some of the areas in Baltimore. How do you answer that?
Well, I think in Baltimore and also across the nation, there's a foundational issue of trust. Trust from the community that the department is doing the right thing for the right reasons and will have integrity in investigations, and frankly trust from officers to understand that these are generational concerns about brutality and some of the other issues that some of the residents believe truly exist. And so there's a need to come together, talk about those issues. The community wants to be heard, they want to be validated, and they want to see actionable steps in the future to make sure that they're working in harmony. I mean, let's face it, the police department can't do its job effectively without the community, and the community can't be as safe as it wants to be without the department that is charged with serving and protecting them.
You said that the community might, perceive that it doesn't exist. From a police standpoint, does a divide exist, and is there at times brutality at the hands of the police?
Well, I think we can look at lawsuits, and I think in any organization you're going to have some folks who tarnish the organization, but by and large, overwhelmingly the majority of officers in this country do an incredible job each and every day, very courageous, very, very brave, and show a high degree of compassion, but there are a few, of course, that cross the line. Just like in communities, the overwhelmingly number of people in this community are wonderful, law-abiding citizens who do the right things for the right reasons, and it's the criminals that we saw yesterday which cast a negative shadow over this city, and many, many people have worked so hard for generations to get it where it is today, and we can only hope that this is just a minor setback, and this city will continue to revitalize.
But as you know, the same theory of a few bad apples applies to the police department as well, and when you have a group, a crowd, a city, a neighborhood, whatever you want to call it, that for the past week is simply crying for justice, how does the police department handle that when it comes there? And is the police department willing to make changes in the way that they patrol neighborhoods where people simply may be in fear of police, or there is that divide that exists?
I think absolutely the department is willing to make change, and it starts with the top. It starts with leadership to make sure that they're going to patrol in a certain way. You cannot over-communicate in these types of situations at the faith-based level, at the academic, at the business level. Everyone needs to come together and say, listen, this isn't working. And the reason it's not working is because we're seeing violence. Can we stop the violence? And if so, how? And again, it's house by house. It's just not a blanket statement or a policy you put in place. It has to be executable. But it starts with really understanding other people, their points of view, again, being heard, validated, and creating actionable steps.
On the side of the police, though, there have been, and you mentioned lawsuits in the past that you can look up, and there have been lawsuits of incidents of people in the back of police vans without the restraints, that, whatever you want to call it, joyriding, pinball, you want to place it. That's happened as well. How do you keep police from doing things like that in the future?
Well, again, it's making sure the right supervision, the right training is in place. I mean, there has to be a clear message from the top down that just simply won't be tolerated. And the fact of the matter is if you do have the bad apples, as you referred to, you get them out of the department because they shouldn't wear the uniform and be sworn in, certainly have sworn in, protect the citizens in which they serve. So, again, it's effective supervision, effective training, and make sure that the community has absolute confidence that the police department will police itself, and then also that the community will do everything it can to quell violence and work constructively with those who are sworn to protect them.
Rob, we know we've seen the military activated here. There's a tank there. A short time ago, a helicopter flying over. As a person who deals with your business now, crisis management, seeing these images on TV, how do you begin to rebuild the gap here in Baltimore?
Well, the first order of leadership is make sure that you provide provide a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. Without order and civil obedience, nothing can happen from there. So I think the resources that have come to town are really, really important for a lot of reasons. But again, it's just not substituting one for the other. While the resources are in place and order is restored, you must continue to speak with those in the community, make sure that they have the appropriate outlets to voice their frustration and concern. And make no mistake about it, and the department should not apologize for holding those accountable who hurt others or destroy property.
As we know, though, you can heal a cut, but the scar remains. It's going to be there for a while in this city. What type of timetable do you look at when it comes to repairing all of these bridges that have been broken?
Well, I think it's a journey. It's not a destination. I don't think you can put a time frame on it. These are generational issues, not just in Baltimore, but across the country. Listen, Baltimore's a wonderful city, but I can tell you that it's an ongoing process. It's a process that doesn't stop. You know, as children are born and they get raised and they become teenagers, and have to pass on that knowledge base and that broader perspective to the next generation. So again, a journey, not a destination, and this is ongoing.
Rob, we appreciate your time. Rob Weinhold is now in crisis management, longtime Baltimore police officer, at one point spokesman for the Baltimore Police Department. Thanks much. I certainly do appreciate it.